We are live. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Hang on, guys. It says there's an issue. Oh, yeah, I think we're okay. All right, so we are live, and welcome everybody today. This is another rendition of our Deep Lumen event, wherein we bring in various industry specialists and leaders to discuss the change that's happening with AI, of course, but also the critical tools that we can be using for marketing and to be more effective with AI. And today we have Joy Wu, who is the co-founder of Deep Lumen. But we have a special guest, and that is Thomas Magnifico, who is the VP of Partnerships, but you're also the global head of CS.
I do a lot of different things. Titles are very outward facing, but I think this is my today's title. So let's go with this one. But yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Now, Thomas, it's also true, and I'll let you tell us a little bit more about this, that as the VP of Partnerships and the Global CS head with DID, you are also now, as based on the recent acquisition, in a similar role with Simple Show. Is that right?
Yeah, DID and Simple Show are one, right? So we're one organization. We have a pretty large shared customer pool of enterprise clients in many different verticals. And, again, the portfolio of products have expanded, right? So obviously DID has started in agentic AI video, and Simple Show does the same, right? So there's a lot of synergy there, at the same time, and I'm sure we'll get into deeper discussion. AI agents, agentic workflows, avatars on top of chatbots is all the rage now, right? So again, there's a new frontier that we're exploring together, which is exciting.
Yeah, and it's amazing how that whole industry is evolving and growing, and what Joy and I have been talking about a lot in recent episodes is something we call M2AI, or marketing to AI, and that's where we're bringing all of these tools, including agentic AI and AI search, and the types of tools that you're building and bringing forward, Tom, to the industry in a way that's really effective. At the end of the day, what AI does, and I'm going to ask you to really tell us more about your solution in that regard, is make the life of marketing and those key people creating content and getting content out there much easier, much simpler, much more effective, and much more immediate. Are those fair ways to describe it, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. I think, what AI allows us to do, or has allowed us to do as an organization, is put a UI on top of AI, right? Which is one of our taglines. It's a slide that I want to show. But again, I think, the value of using AI avatars is it's the human connection, right? You and I are talking, and Joy and the team are talking face to face. You're sitting there, you're listening, you're nodding your head, right? It's how people are used to communicating. And I think, ever since the advent of the computers, the mouse, the keyboard, all that stuff, right? It's very, physical in nature, where you're touching things and whatever. And I think agents and AI avatars are a continuation of that. How do we make those interactions with chatbots and LLMs feel more human, right? And I think that's kind of what our vision is as an organization, and we're seeing it, right? I think 2 years ago there was this term. It's like the uncanny valley, right, of AI avatars, right? And they're not real. And I think in the 2 years that I've been at DID, you've seen a shift, right? I think in the last 6 months specifically, it's become more mainstream, more real. The technology has caught up, right? Because again, I think there's some lagging factors there, or were there, that was hindering it. But yeah, I think, everybody's doing chatbots and AI chatbots and all those things. I mean, that's what ChatGPT is in itself. It's an interface chatbot. We're trying to be the next evolution of that, and put, a face on top of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sure does. And before we came on, Joey and I were chatting a little bit about the change that's happened with agentic AI. And Joy, did you want to talk a little bit about how that relates to this topic and how agentic AI is changing the market and how Deep Lumen is bringing that to bear?
Oh yeah, totally. So one thing to add, like what Thomas just mentioned earlier, is that like what Avatar is doing essentially, because AI is essentially helping the communication to be more efficient. But then AI doesn't have a face, so the avatar actually literally help the agent or help the AI to have the kind of like a human touch on top of it. So remembering the movie Her, which was published like 13 years ago, where Scarlett Johansson's voices is kind of like driving the whole movie, but then it will be so much better if her face is actually right in front of the movie as well. I think that's where Avatar is really bringing the human touch on top of the AI or the agent. And then, so we always, because we are human beings, we always need that human touch out of it, like on top of it. And then what agentic commerce is coming, like agentic commerce is actually one of the biggest buzzword this year, like while Google is launching their UCP, meaning Universal Commerce Protocol. Basically what they're trying to do is really to coming up with standard procedures where like all these Shopify's or DTC brands or even like regular brands, they can unify all their like existing inventories, all these like commerce standards to be compliant with what Google procedures protocols are, so that when people are asking questions in the Google ecosystem, Google can easily pull they can easily pull like informations or data for these DTC brand easily onto the Google ecosystem. So the agentic commerce will come into the picture where AI is really, or agents are really helping human beings to make decisions. And that's very important because let's face it, AI is coming into the picture. So we either embrace it or we kind of like reject it. But then we last year, Thomas and I often saying that it's not AI replacing people or human being. It's really whoever is not being using or whoever is not using AI properly are being replaced by AI.
Yeah.
Those who are equipped with AI properly will be very efficient in the agentic era. And then I think agentic are going into many directions. First is that people are changing where they actually input their information or they're getting their information. For example, we used to use Google so much, but now ChatGPT, last year ChatGPT coming into the picture. And this year Gemini is really catching up. And then Anthropic Cloud are taking so much attention as well, even at the Super Bowl. So I think that's the first part of agentic era really comes in. People are changing where they actually do their searches and interactions. That's the first entry point. And then, so how do brands actually influence those in entry point under this agentic era? It's very important. And that's where AI or like AEO, GEO come into the picture. That's pretty much like systems or like systems, products, and procedures to help brand to really reorganize their existing assets, for example, their website, so that it's ready not just for human being to see it, but also for AI and also machines to able to read all these digital assets of brands. So that's the first part. And then once the traffic are happening in like all these AI interaction windows like ChatGPT, Gemini, and then it's really about getting this information to like getting this traffic into the product. But then once the users get into the product, it's very important that how to interact with the product. We know SaaS is kind of like facing a very difficult like time because like AI is coming into the picture. It feels like a lot of things AI can do it, but why not like if anyone is getting into the specific SaaS product, if there's any agentic customer support along the way with the avatar appearance, it will be such a better like customer journey enhancement. So to me, it's like front end, we have agentic traffic. And then back end, we have the agentic like interactions. That's happening in this year. And then overall, it's really a customer enhancement. And then we know it like once you get the right traffic and you provide the right customer engagement, you get conversions. And I think that's really what this like whole agent is really opportunity is really about.
You know, and that comes back to what you said, Tom, the UI for AI with respect to what you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, 100%. again, just to go back to one thing Joy said, like the term that I use is augmentation, not replacement, right? Augmentation is like the buzzword that I like to use. Everybody, it's another way of change management, right? But again, I think, AI isn't going to replace people. People using AI are going to replace people, right? So just to double down, Joy, kind of on what you said. All right, I do have some slide candy, right? So I'm going to try to present this a little bit here. Give me 1 second. I've not used this platform before, so let me do this. Okay, cool.
So much better if there's an agent happening right now to help you to do the sharing screen functionality.
Yeah, 100%. So
you nailed it.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing a little bit. All right, yeah. So this, our DID's vision, and I won't bore you with all the slides, but there's a couple that I really want to focus on. Again, it's the UI for AI. Everybody's doing chatbots, right? I mean, they're out there. ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity in itself can be said it's a chatbot, right? Because you're typing in it, it's responding. But again, it's not a natural way for humans to communicate, right? And applications at scale or enterprise, right? Like, again, there's many different use cases and many different verticals where, it makes sense for somebody to converse with this AI in a natural way. And that's why we say it's the UI for AI, right? And that's kind of what our vision is. So again, what is the stack, right? For agents and things of that nature. And Joy, you talked about it, right? There's data behind the scenes, right? There's information and orchestration layers, right? And all that other stuff. And that's kind of behind the scenes. DID does a little bit of that, right? But again, at the end of the day, the enterprises and the organizations that we deal with have a lot of this stuff in place, right? They've got their own LLMs, they've got their own data sets and databases. And what we're trying to do or give them, like I said, is a human interface on top of that workflow, right? So again, that really makes sense. And again, enterprise users, right? Employees, customers, partners, executives can now interact in a way that's more natural, right? With the AI and the workflow and the data that's kind of behind the scenes, right? So that's kind of really the vision. Again, LLMs from text to digital humans, I think it's been a natural transition, right? Everything started with text, right? And that was kind of when ChatGPT exploded on the world. I was working in agentic AI prior to ChatGPT exploding. We didn't know what to call it. We were calling it people-facing AI and workflows at the time because we didn't have a name for it, right? And then ChatGPT came out there, and then they started, terming the term agentic and all those things, right? So again, naturally from a progression perspective, it starts with text. And then, there's a lot we see, at least from an enterprise or client perspective, a lot of that's now transitioning to audio and voice, right? So like, again, call center, you call into something, you're speaking to an AI, but you don't necessarily know it, right? Or even on the web, right? You're speaking to an AI, and that's great, right? Because again, audio is just that natural progression, but then digital humans is like the top layer. And again, that's kind of where we see, the industry going. We're seeing it now, and DID kind of plays in that space, right? And the value of that, from perspective of humans, right? And this is a great slide. I love this. It's like, why digital humans, right? And we kind of talk about humans, text, voice, and digital humans, right? So there's many different use cases, right? Where our agents or our avatars can be utilized anywhere, right? But, again, it's customer facing applications or things that, you want to converse with something or converse with the technology. So again, let's just focus more on the text, the voice, and the digital humans. I think, scalability is a huge thing and important for organizations. How do we expand our reach, right? How do we, reach and touch as many people as possible, right? And again, capital is limited. We can only hire so many people, right? So again, how do we help the people that we have scale better? And at the same time, how do we expand our reach, without, bringing on, additional folks if we can't do that, right? So again, there's text, which you can do it, right? The text chatbots, the voice chatbots is another way, and then humans, okay? I think availability is another thing we question about why chatbots are important, right? So again, we got to sleep, we got to eat, we got to do things, right? There's different time zones, again, how do organizations become more global, right? And expand their reach. So I think availability, right, is super important when we think about, this technology. And again, humans are only awake for 8 hours a day, and they should be, right? I mean, working 8 hours a day, and they should be, right? There's other things they want to do. We want to sleep, we want to eat, we want to, socialize. So this technology really scales across those three verticals. Okay, I think these next 3 points are really where AI avatars or AI agents, visual agents, really kind of start hitting that sweet spot, right? And it's trust and experience, right? Nobody wants to talk to something they can't see, right? I think one of the biggest things, and maybe I'm biased, obviously, because I work for DID, but like, you have cell phone service. You go talk to my chatbot, right? If you have a problem, right? And all the big telcos are doing this. I'll pick on them because some of them are our clients. They've got a chatbot, and a lot of that is automated now, but there's humans behind that. But again, how do you trust that? How do you trust who you're talking to, right? So like, from a humans experience, right? Because when you're talking to somebody visually, whether it's on a Zoom call, my stove just broke yesterday, and they have a great service where they FaceTime you and you're talking to somebody versus talking to a chatbot. I love that, right? But again, it's limited to scale. Text, again, there's a trust issue there because you don't know necessarily if you're interfacing with an AI or a person or the type of person or something there. And then voice is better, right? We found that voice is better, but again, like, how do we see something, right? Because humans trust what they see. And that's where digital humans come in. And we're starting to see the studies out that really, prove this out is like, when you see somebody or something and you're talking to it and it's speaking your language, because language isn't something that I touched on yet, but it's not just the visual, it's the representation of that, right? AI agents can scale. They can speak many different languages versus I only know English and I'm not really that good at English as well, right? So, again, we broaden our reach. So that's really, I think, important from a trust perspective. I'll pause there, Joy and Thomas, because I really want to talk about these next two, but any comments to kind of those 3 first points and kind of where we see this?
Go ahead, Joy.
Oh, like I absolutely agree because I used to work for a smaller avatar video company. So I completely understand. Also agree on what Thomas you just mentioned about like how kind of like avatar together with LM functionality is really going to enhance the whole, both from a business perspective, but also from a user journey or user experiences perspective. So definitely 100% agree. And also one interesting to kind of like a side note to mention is that because I was in California last year, attending one of the Berkeley kind of like AI event. So there are like all these like top notch like investors from like say Sequoia, like Berkeley Fund, like all these top investors in the AI industry were gathered together at the end of the year and discussing like what has they been seeing in the AI industry where they make a bet wrong. And then it's so interesting that everyone is saying that they used to thought commercialization are easy because AI is so cool. Of course, people are paying for it. But the reality is that corporates are actually it's not easy it's actually extremely hard to get to be clients to continue on their contracts. So and as avatar like a video avatars are, I think it's one of the industries where one of the kind of like verticals where or AI applications where you guys are keep getting like continuous contracts from the 2B services. And I think that itself really shows, even though AI is so hard to go commercialization, but avatars are getting contracts from the like large clients and large organizations. So that itself shows how businesses are incorporating and leveraging avatars in their like regular life already, in their like regular business life already in 2025. So not to mention this year with agent booming, everyone needs a face in front of agents. So I think it's going to be a big year for DID.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big year in general for the industry. And then, the last 2 pieces is a good segue: cost and ROI. I mean, again, cost is a relative term. There's different calculations for this, but human beings are expensive, right? And again, like I think workforces want to hire as many people as possible to scale and reach as many people as possible. I think there's a limitation, right, from the standpoint of I can only talk to one person at one time, meaningfully, right? And have this. And obviously we're doing a Zoom meeting. We have an audience here, so that's not entirely true. But again, really like dialing in and getting super focused, one-to-one conversations are really effective. And the value of AI agents, whether it's text, voice, or digital humans, is, they can, it's this term called concurrency. They can have multiple interactions with multiple people at one time. And I think that's really one of the best, value statements, from that perspective of what the AI can do. and there's a cost associated with that, right? When you look at, per digital employee or whatever, I mean, humans are expensive, and we know this, and rightfully so. Okay. But at the same time, organizations really want to scale and expand their reach, especially smaller businesses too. They can't hire as many people as maybe some larger enterprises. Well, using AI agents and avatars is a good way to do that. And you can see, out of the three digital things that we have here, text, voice, and digital humans are still the most expensive, right? And that's understanding, because the technology, while it's not new, it's still evolving, right? So text has been around for a while. It's cheaper, obviously, and from a voice perspective, it's more expensive than text, but it's not expensive as digital humans. And again, that's coming down, right, as the technology gets better and things of that nature. And then ROI is the big thing, right? I think that's the question of like, what is the ROI of using this type of technology? And again, with digital humans, we're seeing now in their studies coming out, it's very high, right? Because again, we have that trust factor, we have the scalability, we have the omni-channel reach in multiple languages, right? So that globalization effect, right? You can do many different things with it. So again, we're seeing a lot of different use cases and a lot of different verticals. I mean, sales, training, right? Coaching, things like that. Super
Tom,
important.
can I just stop and give an example real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Just as something easy that we did, and we got your help in doing this. So we created a Thomas, and in this case, this Thomas avatar, and we did a number of videos, and a couple of them were for sales training, but one of them was for a overview of what we do by way of working with Joy and Deep Blooming and M2AI and creating AI sales pipelines. And we did a video with that, and it's about just under 2 minutes long. That box and click on our website is by far the number one area that people go to on our website, and it gets watched anywhere from 15 to 20 times a day, and it gets watched right to the end in almost 80% of the cases.
Oh, nice.
And then we get feedback from that. So that tells me that is an extremely effective tool and a very good way to be using that kind of tool. And in fact, because it's running 24/7, it's done just a marvelous job. And we want to build that now more and more into our other systems and services by way of what we're doing, because people like it so much. So just an example.
No, it's a great point. And two more slides just to kind of round this
Sure.
out, right? I think, the power of the human face, right? There's studies out there. Again, I love some of these stats, right? 70% more trust in brands that use human-like visuals and interactions.
Yeah.
I think you kind of like double down on that right now with what you're seeing, right? When people see a video, obviously video is like number one way to communicate, right? TikToks of the world and all that stuff. We know it's huge. But again, when somebody has a face on top of that, right, it's 70% more effective. I think, there's more retention when you're using a human face, and we're finding that now with the chatbots as well. How do we make sure people are staying in the conversations for longer and you're actually getting meaningful information out of those interactions? So we're seeing that as well. And again, one thing I did not mention with these avatars is like there's an analysis instantly of the conversations and the sentiment, right? So the value of using this is like, as an organization, I can see what people are asking this thing in real time and get that data analytics. And the value in the loop is I can update the databases or the technology behind that with more pertinent information for my user base, right? So like that loop is super valuable to many different types of organizations. And then the last piece is, again, and I think, Thomas, you said the same thing, whether it's video or agents themselves, 38% more views for content featuring human faces, right? So again, everything ties back to this UI for AI and really increasing the value of these agents and these workflows. Now, one thing I'll just lastly talk about, and I guess I'll be a little biased and a little salesy here with this, is like DID's portfolio, right? Because we're talking about AI avatars and agents, like and we said obviously one use case is the agents themselves. What can you do with that? But again, there's many different things. So Thomas, as you mentioned, DID has merged with Simple Show. We've done that late last year. Simple Show had a video maker platform. DID had a studio, right, with the avatars, right? We've merged that kind of into one, and we're in the process of doing that. So avatars, obviously the stars of the show, but like this is kind of the verticals of what you can do with them. So AI content and AI video, right? And Thomas, I know you started some of that, from your perspective. So that's one thing. I think, obviously, and again, DID has integrations into other tools, right? So PowerPoint, everybody uses PowerPoint. We're actually doing a webinar with Microsoft in April, right? Kind of showcasing that technology itself. So everybody in the audience, be on the lookout for that. We have integrations into Canva. Canva is a great authoring tool, right? Millions of people use it, right? So avatars are there. And then AI dubbing is like the second vertical, right? So translations, right? So like, again, it's a great webinar. We're talking right now, it's in English. How do I get this thing to be translated to a different language, right? So you can take this video, put it through our technology, and output it in a different language, right? Using AI, which is super cool, right? Because again, like, think of the cost, right? If you wanted to produce a piece of content and then change it to a different language. Obviously, with the avatars, you can do that in the studio. But again, think about all the webinars or all the content you've already got pre-recorded, right? What do you do with that? There's a lot of value there. Our technology allows you to kind of take that information in those videos and translate it to different languages, put subtitles on it as well, right? So it's a great tool. We have an integration with CRM, right? So like if you wanted to create a piece of content at scale, so email campaigns you're sending out to your CRM database, how do I personalize that, right? And that's what the bulk personalization is. It's like I can create a piece of content and video with an avatar that's personalized based on the data I have in my CRM, right? So imagine doing that at scale. And then obviously the interactive agents, right? I mean, we've touched on that. It's a UI for the AI. There's a lot of different workflows behind that. So that's more of the visual side. But I want to say one last thing is like DID is an AI API first organization as well. And with our API, you can build whatever you want, right? And that's the power of using APIs, right? So you can take our technology and the core components of that, build it into unique workflows. We have a lot of integrations with, OpenAI, N8N, ServiceNow, right? Things like that, where you can take the existing workflows that you have and, again, to just build out many unique things, build out new products, right? I mean, that's the thing. DID wants to provide a platform, and organizations can take our technology and build their own unique solutions on top of that. So that's kind of a little bit about DID. Happy to double click into anything that you kind of heard there, but that's kind of where we sit and our portfolio of products right now.
Excellent. And what I will say as well, and we promote and support and bring DID to many of our clients as well. And it's a very cost-effective, quick, easy, simple tool to use that can work with most systems. And I don't think I've run into anybody yet, Tom, that's had a challenge using it. I mean, other than me, but that's because I'm technologically, challenged. But everybody else was easy. And today's conversation is so appropriate for Joy and I because we're so familiar with this technology and how it works in the industry. And I think that one of the key questions that people ask us is, how do you create these avatars in a way that's really productive for the message you want to send and the ICP or the customer you want to serve? Is that something you can touch on a little bit, Tom?
Yeah, I can. I mean, the interesting thing about the technology, and again, timing is everything, right? We've just released our new version of avatars called expressive avatars. Obviously, they're faster. The lip sync is better, right? There's a whole bunch of buzz terms that I can kind of throw out there. I think the biggest thing that we've put into these avatars is expressiveness and sentiment, right? And what does that mean, right? So, like, obviously, that plays into the audience question, right? Do the avatars need to, or does the content need to be sympathetic, right? We see a lot of applications in the medical space, whether it's, hospital care, patient care, drug, education, families dealing, we partner with like the American Alzheimer's Foundation. They built an agent on their website where their agent interacts with families who, have family members that have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and they have questions, right? So the avatar, by itself can be a certain way, but now they can do expression and sentiment, right? They can be more empathetic. They can be more listening or professional, right? So that's like a change now in the technology that lets you control that. And I think the applications for that are very unique, right? So again, it's the type of content you're creating, the vertical, right? We talked about, hospital care, things like that. Maybe it's sales coaching or things like that, where you need to be very like energetic and stuff, right? So you can control that. So I think, you have more, the script is one thing, right? And you put a script in, you can change the language. You could actually add like, excitement now, But again, you can define how the avatar behaves when it actually reads the content and things like that now, which really makes the content that more engaging, right? So that's on the video side. And then with the agents themselves now, with the new expressive agents, they can actually change sentiment automatically, right? So based on the nature of the conversation, think customer service, right? A lot of times people are happy with your service, they have questions. I mean, sometimes they're not, right? And you have to deal with that, right? So the agents now, based on a customer service type of role or workflow, they can be more empathetic, right? And change that sentiment and adjust the conversation type. So again, I think, the technology now is be able to kind of do that. We work with some partners on the voice side because it's not just the visual, right? DID works with OpenAI, we work with Microsoft, we work with 11 Labs. Like these are big names in the industry with voice technology. They're going the expressive route as well with the voice technology, right? So our visuals mirror that with the expressive on the voice. And again, the content becomes more engaging there, right? Because the voice kind of matches the visuals. So that's a little bit about that. Again, there's more coming. I think the crazy thing about our industry, Tom and Joy, and this, there's a new model out every day, right?
Yeah.
Or something changes every week, right? So it's super exciting, but at the same time, it's hard to kind of catch up, right? So I think at the same time, it's my job and our job and I think the point of this type of conversation, right, is to educate the masses, right? Because it's funny because you and I do this every day. 95% of the world still isn't using AI the way it should be, or even using it at all, right? So there's this it's open sea, right, to really educate folks on what's available and what's out there and all the different models and things like that.
Oh yeah, cannot agree more. And it's crazy already. Like even though 90 or 95% of the world is not using AI, but it still already feels like AI is booming so quickly. Everyone's using AI in our small world. So it's just a matter of time how quickly the entire world is embracing AI the way we are doing. And also one thing to add is that it feels like yes, there are, because I've been in AI since 2018. That's when the first wave of commercialization of AI happens. When deep learning, machine learning are happening, that's when the Amazon Echo come into the picture, where we call it native AI speakers. So I've been in AI industry for 7-8 years, more than I would like to admit. So yeah, it does seems like a lot of bubbles are happening, and then not bubble, but a lot of things are happening. So many things are happening, and it feels like the AI is taking the entire world. But then based on my experiences in the industry for 8 years, seeing the previous commercialization wave from starting to kind of burst to this wave. This wave is real, but that at the same time, every new products or new kind of agents, new terminologies are happening. But I was telling my team, don't worry about it, because let the kind of bullets fly a little bit. The true applications will happen because it's not just a technology go commercialization and boom, everyone's using it. From a technology to a productization to commercialization, these are two big steps. So I think 3D, the avatar videos are one true thing because say AI videos in terms of creative AI videos. Remember the Gen AI wave happens 2 years ago, 2014. All the CMOs are worried about generative AI. And we call it AIGC, AI generated content in Asia. But then when it hits the marketers are actually taking a kind of damage almost, because they sooner or later they realize, oh, it is really cool using one prompt. I can generate an entire AI video. But then sooner or later the brands realize that, wait a second, I cannot really use these AI generated videos. And that's when avatar video come into the picture, where all the control elements out of a avatar video, brands can actually control it instead of any creative AI video. Brands cannot change any elements out of it, and that's where AI avatar videos are the true commercial thing. But then AI videos for brands might not be most brands cannot use AI creative videos. So I think it takes some time for the real product to hit the market and really be benefiting the industry. While there's a lot of noises, it's cool stuff, but then it is really applicable to especially to be clients. I think it's a matter of time. We need to be patient, and also we need to be cautious and patient, waiting for the real AI applicable product to business clients. And also it's very interesting because Thomas, you're bringing the AI avatar videos, which I think has been wildly used in the industry, the 2B industry already. So it's proven to be a very solid product. And also, I think what's behind the back is really you guys are really using advanced technology to really embrace business to increase efficiency because they are able to create videos like so quickly, so easily. And if there's anything changed, they can just change the script and recreate the video quickly. So it's really your product is using technology to maintain the human touch, to show it to the audience, to help business. And then what Deployment is doing, it sounds a little bit contradictory to what you guys are doing because we're doing it for like we call it marketing to AI, meaning that we're saying like in the future everything is really AI is making decisions, so you need to market to AI. So forget about like images or these pretty stuff. You need the text. But I think what's behind or what's kind of the common ground is just the same. We're using technology to enable business to either get more traffic or getting more content in the most efficient way. So in the end, we're really helping business to get the most efficient ROI. So I think that's what's shared in the common ground. And also, I would love to kind of like, if you don't mind, like if I can share my screen a little bit, just to tell people like, or tell our audience what exactly does it mean by, say, marketing to AI. So can everyone see my screen with the ChatGPT?
Hang on, let me see.
All right. Yeah, let me just
There you go.
Here we go. So yeah, I think what Thomas and also the idea is doing is really once you have the traffic into your platform, how do you create avatar enabled videos and also experiences to enhance the whole customer journey in the most cost efficient way. But then so that's amazing. But then at the same time, where are the traffics? And like now, like over like 80 million, like 8 billion like users are actually close to 8 billion users are using it, and they're saying like there are like 7.2 billion usages on ChatGPT on a monthly basis. So that's a very crazy number. So your traffic has already changed it. Like your traffic has already been on ChatGPT. So let me show you an example of what we did for one of our clients. So let me type like what's the best longevity fund in Southeast Asia. So that could be a very typical typical question if like you're interested in like a longevity fund. And then look at the first one, Immortal Dragon. They are our client. They were not very well known because they only have 40 million asset under management, so not exactly huge. But then because they were promoting using AEO services, meaning that they want to be visible in the AI environment. So they came to us and we helped them, and they become the number one choices on this like ChatGPT. And it's also a live case. So and that's where they're getting more traffic. And DID could be also another like relevant clients because most of your like there are quite good numbers of traffic might be coming from ChatGPT instead of just Google nowadays. So how to really capture the audience in ChatGPT, that's a question. And that's exactly what Deployment is helping users or helping clients are doing. But then how do we do it? Number one is AEO services, meaning that we need to really reorg your whole brand like assets. For example, especially your website. So this is kind of like a view of like a human view. And this is a typical D2C website where like say it's a smartwatch, right? But imagine if we want AI to understand exactly what your brand or what product is exactly doing, by showing this, like all these informations might not be able to best facilitate your AI to understand what exactly you're doing. So instead, like we have this AI agentic page product helping brand within like a couple clicks. We are transforming your website from the potential like traditional human touch or human view onto the AI view, where AI crawlers are easily better understand what exactly your brand is about, what your product is really doing, and then they can better like recommend your brand in the near future. So that's what we're doing. So it does sound like we're losing the human touch part of it, but then I think on the bottom line, it's essentially the same. We're really trying to just I'm sorry, let me just kind of stop sharing. Yeah, but I think the bottom line, we're doing exactly what the idea is doing, is really using technology. Doesn't matter if it's losing the human touch part to help AI to better understand your brand, or like say augment the human touch part on top of technology to help users to
And that's what
understand.
happens. That's what happens. So right in at the bottom of your agentic page there was a book demo. So when they book the demo, they're now bringing in the avatar, right? Initially
Exactly.
to qualify and make sure that we can answer the right questions. And we do that with the AI sales pipelines as well. We use the avatar, and the avatar comes in with the agentic AI, and it actually qualifies and make sure that we have what they're looking for. And in fact, they're a great customer. And now that can go on to the sales professional, depending upon whether or not, because we do want to differentiate between retail sales and B2B. So in the D2C market, as you were showing with the watch, that's a natural flow through. And they may use an avatar in that context, and they can close that transaction, just as William was asking earlier. Or
Absolutely.
in the B2B, now that's converted and it's actually handed off in a queue to a live sales team. So people are very much a part of this, and it only works because at the end of the day, within reason, people still want to work with people, and humans want to communicate with humans. So we need to create that experience, but in as efficient and productive a way as we can. And all of these tools come together to do that.
No.
That's exactly what we're doing as our next phase of our product upgrade, where we want to have that agentic engagement with users, where it's more interactive with hopefully an avatar look, so that we still have the human touch part of it, but then back at the back end, it's all technology. Because in the end, I think what's coming into the world is really people are still deciding, but at the same time, agent or AI is actually coming into the picture. So it's almost like we have both machine and the human. So let's create enough like content or experiences or interactiveness for human to better enhance the experiences, and then also create enough content or like translate enough content for agent or AI or machine to better understand you. I think it's going to be a combination.
And I want to steal you, Tom, for just a sec here, because I want to ask you about a case scenario that I have that I
Sure.
think brings all these things together that we're talking about. So yesterday I did a presentation with Selling Power, and we were talking. And in fact, you came up. So it was interesting because we were talking about avatars, and we were talking about how that technology can now facilitate what we're doing. And one of the things that came up from one of the sales leaders afterwards, when I was finished talking, is they asked, Thomas, how are you and how are we as people that are marketing going to efficiently follow up with all these people and leads that are asking us questions when it takes our teams days, sometimes weeks, to go through all of these opportunities? And so my immediate answer to him in this case was, we need to build in agentic AI, and we need to build in an avatar on the basis of your team and your SDRs and whatever function you want to relate to that, and apply that in that case scenario. Was I on the money, or was I out to lunch on that?
No, 100%, 100%. I think we try to. There's a term in our industry like eating your own dog food, right? And the idea has an agent on their website. We actually, this being the head of customer success, we have an agent in our help center now that has like the knowledge of the help center, right? So like in those two scenarios, at least having the agent on the website, again, it's not meant to replace a human sales rep. That's not what we're trying to do, right? But at the end of the day, right, if somebody has questions about the product, and it's kind of in that 80%, right, where it's like a general question, agents are answering those, they're qualifying, they're collecting information, right? And they're scoring or qualifying the actual like leads. And that helps you, one, kind of like answer those questions. And again, maybe that'll convert right there, right? Because again, maybe it's not as, they don't need to pay you, $25,000. They're going to, start using your B2C service, right? Or whatever it is, and get on there and then like ask more questions. So there's conversions happening. At the same time, that interaction might prompt to learn more, right? And like though it's even more qualified, right? Because it has more information, the prospect has more information, things like that. I mean, there are partners that we have that are building very unique workflows with our technology that do all of it, right? So like I just want to be very clear, DID is not going to do all of that out of the box. It's going to do a lot. But like there are other organizations that are using our technology in conjunction with their technology to kind of like automate that whole workflow. So again, qualification, booking a meeting, for example, right? You know, we're working with some of the bigger consulting companies for a call to action where they want to have an agent, whether it's sending out a white paper or doing something, and like booking a meeting, right? So the agents themselves can integrate with Outlook and book meetings and do that stuff. So you're taking some of that work, right, that they need to go through to do all that, and you're putting it in a workflow that's automated. It's not 100%, right? But it's way better than what you're doing today. And at the same time, right, like you're taking some of that busy work or that like hard work away and really allowing your teams to really focus on the things that matter. And I think that's the value of like using the agents in that fashion. So I think you hit the nail on the head, Thomas.
Good to know, because that's going to be coming back to you to answer on behalf of that, on that customer. So that's awesome. So I think, I think we can probably wrap this up today. I think we've had an amazing conversation, and we've learned a great deal about how to tie all these together. At the end of the day, and you said it so well, Tom, AI isn't going to replace people, right? But people using AI are certainly going to replace people. We're seeing that more and more every day. If you're not using AI, you're already behind the curve. So then it becomes a question of how to use it, where can it be impactful, where can it cut costs, how can we use it quickly and easily? And using a tool like DID in combination with combining that with AI search and making sure that your products and services are being found in the first place, you combine that and now you've got something. But you take either one of those out of the equation and you've got a broken equation that doesn't necessarily connect the dots. So the customer's got to find us, and then when they find us, they've got to be able to talk to us in a way that's easy, comfortable, and that they're confident in, so we can close the deal and get the transaction. And that's what this is all about. I want to thank you, Thomas, for taking the time today. I know you're a very busy individual there today, and you're traveling, of course. And Joy, I want to thank you for your time, because it's amazing to have Deep Lumen's deep experience and technology available to everything that we're doing along with DID. So that's been fantastic. And I want to thank our audience for taking the time. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you both, Thomas.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.